So, what's up guys? Narito na naman tayo upang mag-react sa panibago nating video. Ang title ng ating video ngayon ay Marcos Gold and the Richest Countries in the World. So, ito ay magmumula kay JholoTV. So, mag-subscribe kayo sa kanya. At ngayon ay umpisahan na natin ang ating video.
Welcome to JholoTV. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you. The list of 11 countries that hold the most gold in their reserves has remained mostly unchanged over the last few years. Flip through this slideshow to discover which central banks value the yellow metal the most. 11. Netherlands. 612.5 tons. The Dutch Central Bank announced that it will be moving its gold vaults from Amsterdam to Camp New Amsterdam, about an hour outside the city, citing burdensome security measures of its current location. As many others have pointed out, this seems odd, given that the bank fairly recently repatriated a large amount of its gold from the United States. Number 10. India. 618.2 tons. It's no surprise that the Bank of India has one of the largest stores of gold in the world. The South Asian country, home to 1.25 billion people, is the second largest consumer of the precious metal, and is one of the most reliable drivers of global demand. India's festival and wedding season, which runs from October to December, has historically been a huge boon to gold's love trade.
So yun no, yung India talaga napakayaman yan pagdating sa na natural mineral yung tsaka yung mga precious metals at tsaka kung titingnan natin dati yung hindi pa minimina yung kanilang bayan, may isang part doon ng minahan ay talagang dati pinupulot lang yung ginto mismo nandun lang sa lapag.
Number 9.
Japan.
765.2 tons. Japan, the world's third largest economy, is also the largest hoarder of the yellow metal. Its central bank has been one of the most aggressive practitioners of quantitative easing. In January 2016, it lowered interest rates below zero, which has helped fuel demand for gold around the world. Number 8. Switzerland. 1040.0 tons. In 8th place is Switzerland, which actually has the world's largest reserves of gold per capita. During World War II, the neutral country became the center of the gold trade in Europe, making transactions with both the Allies and Axis powers. Today, much of its gold trading is done with Hong Kong and China. Number 7. China. 1,936.5 tons. In the summer of 2015, the People's Bank of China began sharing its gold purchasing activity on a monthly basis for the first time since 2009. Although China comes in 7th for most gold held, the yellow metal accounts for only a small percentage of its overall reserves, a mere 2.8%, the lowest of the top 10 central banks with the most gold. China has actually been on a gold buying spree since December 2018, buying almost 100 tons from then through August. Number 6. Russia. 2,219.2 tons. The Russian Central Bank has been the largest buyer of gold for the past 7 years and overtook China in 2018 to have the 6th largest reserves. In 2017, Russia bought 224 tons of bullion in an effort to diversify away from the US dollar, as its relationship with the West has grown chilly since the annexation of the Crimean Peninsula in mid-2014. To raise the cash for these purchases, Russia sold a huge percentage of its US treasuries. Number 5. France. 2,436.1 tons. France's central bank has sold little of its gold over the past several years, and there are calls to halt it altogether. Marine Le Pen, president of the country's far-right National Front Party, has led the charge not only to put a freeze on selling the nation's gold but also to repatriate the entire amount from foreign vaults. Number 4. Italy. 2,451.8 tons. Italy has likewise maintained the size of its reserves over the years, and it has support from European Central Bank, ECB, President Mario Draghi. The former Bank of Italy governor, When asked by a reporter in 2013 what role gold plays in a central bank's portfolio, answered that the metal was a reserve of safety, adding, "It gives you a fairly good protection against fluctuations against the dollar." Number 3. Germany. 3,366.8 tons. In 2017, Germany completed a 4-year repatriation operation to move a total of 674 tons of gold from the Banque de France and the Federal Reserve Bank of New York back to its own vaults. First announced in 2013, the move was expected to take until 2020 to complete. Although gold demand fell in 2017 after hitting an all-time high in 2016, this European country has seen gold investing steadily rise since the global financial crisis. Number 2. United States. 8,133.5 tons. With the second largest official holdings in the world, the U.S. lays claim to nearly as much gold as the next 3 countries combined. It also has the second highest gold allocation as a percentage of its foreign reserves at 76%. From what we know, the majority of U.S. gold is held at Fort Knox in Kentucky, with the remainder held at the Philadelphia Mint, Denver Mint, San Francisco SA Office and West Point Bullion Depository.
So bago tayo pumunta sa number 1, without yung gold reserve, walang halaga yung ating mga pera, no? Kasi ang gold reserve, ang naka-backup niyan talaga gold. So if may 20 pesos ka, ibig sabihin may 20 pesos na halaga kang ginto doon sa central bank. Yan. Kung tama ako ng pagkakaintindi, guys, paki-comment sa baba kung alam niyo yung kung bakit may gold reserve. Yan, sige.
Number 1. Philippines. Over 1 million tons.
1 million tons.
They are sitting on top of the world's wealth.
Ang nagsasalita ay very credible na tao, si Mrs. Karen Hoods or Hughes. Hindi ko alam ang basa. Paki-comment na lang. World Bank former lawyer. So hindi niya naman sisirain yung kanyang reputasyon bilang isang lawyer ng World Bank, na kung saan nang sasabihin niya na hawak ng Pilipinas yung ginto,
which was put into a secret account, and it has more gold than anybody knows about. Assets, it's gold. It's more gold than people know about. It's over 1 million metric tons of gold.
So 1 million metric tons of gold is not something you can just...
Grabe, 1 million tons of gold. Sa USA, 8,000 metric tons of gold. May 300 pa na something. Grabe yung lamang ng Pilipinas, pero syempre hindi ata mabuksan, Tingnan natin, pagpatuloy natin yung video.
Where's the gold?
Nasa ng ginto.
400,000 metric tons are in the Central Bank of the Philippines.
Mind-blowing.
There's over 200,000 metric tons in Union Bank of Switzerland. And some of that gold is buried securely in the Philippines as well.
So ayun, kung titingnan natin, napakayaman ng Pilipinas, pero kung iisipin natin, ito ay sabi sa title, Marcos Gold, malamang kay Pangulong Marcos itong gold na to at ipapamana niya sa mga Pilipino. At ng mga nakarang presidente naman, bago umupo ang ating Pangulong Marcos, wala naman silang mga ginto, Wala namang ginto yung Pilipinas.
Some of it is held in various banks, but the bulk of it is in the Philippines.
Lumulo na.
So the World Bank holds the note on that gold?
No. It is in a special trust account that was set up by Ferdinand Marcos.
Narinig nyo ba, guys? Uulitin ko, Ang tanong niya,
so the World Bank holds the note on that gold?
So, hinahawakan kaya ng World Bank yung ginto na yon?
No.
Hindi.
It is in a special trust account that was set up by Ferdinand Marcos.
Sinet up ng ating Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos na hindi magagalaw ni inuman. Ganun siya katalino, Kumbaga, alam na alam niya nang nanakawin or may mag-aangkin doon sa ginto na yon.
Oh my God!
The Philippines is the richest country in the world.
Yes.
Even President Ronald Reagan knows and said this. Did you know about Marcos gold? In 1930, Europe was in a depression and Germany was financially bankrupt. An unknown party leader promised the German people that he could create jobs and boost its economy. The Germans dared him and put him in power. His name is Adolf Hitler. In June 1933, the Vatican and Hitler, a Roman Catholic, signed a concordat for mutual protection and enhancement. Shortly after that, Hitler was loaded with money. He built a massive army and manufactured weapons for war. Then Hitler took Poland. Before 1918, there was no Poland. That land was part of Germany and used as a buffer zone to separate Germany from Russia. But when Hitler reclaimed it, England declared war on Germany. Throughout the Spanish occupation of the Philippines, members of the Tagalog clan have been visiting Europe since some of their relatives were English and Austrian. From 1866 to 1898, Prince Julian MacLeod Tagalog had also been frequenting the Vatican. In 1934, under Pope Pius XII, the Vatican negotiated with a member of the Filipino royal family, the Christian Tagalog clan in Philippines. An agreement was reached that 640,000 metric tons of the Tagalog gold would.
Grabe yung Talyano clan, ano? Sa buong angkan nila, sila ang pinakamayamang angkan sa buong mundo or nabuhay sa buong mundo. 640 tons of gold.
Be lent to the Pope. This was part of that gold accumulated by the Southeast Asian Empire during its glorious reign of 900 years. In 1939, two members of the Tagalog family and a Roman Catholic priest, Father Jose Antonio Diaz, brought the gold from Codicinabaldo, Salva, to the Vatican. After doing this, Father Diaz went back to the Philippines and resided in Cabanatuan City. After World War II, he facilitated the safe return of the 640,000 metric tons of gold from the Vatican to the Philippines. A lease agreement was made between the Tagalog clan and the Philippines government. A total of 617,500 metric tons of gold was deposited in the newly installed Central Bank of the Philippines to comply with its requirement for gold reserve. Under the terms of the.
Kita nyo guys, ang world reserve, ang reserve ng Pilipinas, 617 metric tons, 617,500 metric tons of gold.
500 metric tons of gold was deposited in the newly installed Central Bank of the Philippines to comply with its requirement for gold reserve. Under the terms of the contract, the Central Bank became the holder of that gold. That lease agreement will expire in the year 2005. Having gained the trust and confidence of Father Diaz, the Tagalog clan made him the main negotiator and trustee of their gold. Father Diaz, in turn, hired the services of attorney Ferdinand Marcos, then a highly recommended brilliant young lawyer having attained notoriety when he successfully defended himself in a Nalondasan case.
Tingnan nyo guys, oh. University of the Philippines, Marcos Bar Top Notcher, 1939, average of 98.01%. Napakatalino. Criminal law, tingnan natin, oh. Criminal law, 95%, civil law, hindi natin makita. International law, 97%. Legal ethics, 97%. Political law, 95%. Average of 98.0%.
Case in 1939. The Tagalog clan paid commission to Father Diaz and attorney Marcos in gold, 30% from the principal of 640,000 metric tons. In 1949, the two richest men in the world were Father Jose Antonio Diaz and attorney Ferdinand Marcos. Between the two of them they legitimately earned and owned 192,000 metric tons of gold. Ferdinand Marcos withdrew their share of the gold from the central bank and minted it. Sometime later, Father Diaz and Marcos brought their gold to Switzerland in the Swiss Bank Corporation in Zurich.
At nilagay nila dyan guys sa central bank.
The remaining 400,000 metric tons of Talano gold is in the third-floor basement of the central bank minting plant in East Avenue, Quezon City, Philippines. There are 950,000 metric tons of gold, declared missing in the International Court of Justice, picked up by Yamashita from its European ally, Hitler. Another 250,000 tons of the Japanese loot around Southeast Asia are both now in the Philippines. This country then became the holder of 1.6 million metric tons of gold bars.
Ito yung ginto guys.
This country then became the holder of 1.6 million metric tons of gold bars. Some of the Yamashita gold buried in the Philippines has been found, but the bulk of it is still buried to this day. And even now, thousands are secretly digging for it, including Japanese treasure hunters. The Wall Street Journal in its November 15, 1985 issue wrote that 2/3 of all gold in the world is in the Philippines. 1/3 is divided among the rest of the countries in the world. Very few Filipinos know this. In the 70s and 80s, blood money from the Roman Catholic Church, channeled into the Philippines via the Vatican Bank and another foreign power, fueled the flames of dissension in the countryside and on the streets of Manila. A concerted church and foreign civil destabilization. Demolition campaign was waged against Marcos. All that gold in the hands of one man like Marcos was a threat to those who have been used for.
Ang ginto ng buong mundo ay napunta lamang sa isang tao na may mabuting puso.
So long with so much money and power. Marcos became too powerful and would not toe the line of the two established power in the world, the Vatican and the Trilateral Commission, USA, Germany, Japan. But Marcos was no lapdog to any foreign power. In his grand plan, Marcos wanted to re-establish the former grandeur of the Philippines and the whole region of Southeast Asia, the former Malayan Empire. In June 1983, Marcos appeared before the first world leaders in Toronto. He announced his plan to boost the economy of the Southeast Asian region by creating the Asian dollar. This would be backed up by the 400,000 metric tons of gold in the Central Bank of the Philippines and the other gold he scattered around the region.
Magkakaroon sana ng Asian dollar no, na back up na 400,000 metric tons of gold. So, yung ginto ni Pangulong Marcos ginawa ng backup gold reserve ng Pilipinas. So, isipin niyo kung gaano siya kabuti na tao, ano? Siguro kung natuloy yun, ano? Ang plano niya siguro, libre ang ospital, libre ang paaral, libre pamasahe, libre bayad at ang lupa, libre kuryente at tubig. Lahat din sinasabi nga, maharlika malayang mamamayan or malayang pamamalakad ng mga Pilipino sa ating bansa yan.
He would also add to this his own personal 192,000 metric tons in Switzerland. This Asian dollar, backed up by the 2/3 of all the gold in the world that was in the Philippines, would have made the Philippines money more valuable and stronger than the American dollar. This was his vision to raise Southeast Asia to be at par with the rest of the first world countries. When Father Jose Antonio Diaz, alias Severino Sandaromana, died in 1974, all that 30% commission in gold became legendary Marcos gold. After providing for his family in Marcos' letter of instruction, the whole wealth derived from this was supposed to be given to the Filipino people. This was the Marcos wealth that some politicians and churchmen kept on saying was the ill-gotten Marcos wealth that until today is in Marcos' secret accounts.
Here. 170 banks with Marcos deposited money.
Ayos yung pagsilip niya guys. What? 170 banks?
Just to show you the bill of lading.
Ano kaya nilalaman ng 170 banks na yun? No? Siyempre hindi pera kundi ginto.
How much is
$240 million.
$240 million
Oh my
ano niya?
goodness. Is it million? Billion?
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 It's a billion.
240 billion?
Yan yung mukha ni Mel Chanco guys. Oh.
Only one ship.
It's the
Nangina.
987.
Ang hinahabol ng PCGG, no, nasa 100 something or 200 something. Look at that, guys, 987 billion, at pag ipag-plus mo na yun sa dalawang bangko pa lang yan.
$billion.
You are rich beyond compare. No, this will save the
Kinakabaw sa
world.
kuya.
The world. So, Mrs. Marcos, are you
So napansin nyo, guys, hindi sinabi ni ng ating Madam Imelda Marcos na isisave ito ng yung sa pamilya ko, isisave itong sa bayan ng Pilipino. Willing siya na ibigay sa buong mundo,
saying you're
sa lapi
open
nila.
to giving some or an amount of this one to the country, to the Philippines?
Madamo talaga to si Mel Chanco, no? Gusto niya lang, sinabi na nga ni Madam Imelda, ibibigay niya sa buong mundo. Gusto niya pa rin sa Pilipino lang.
No,
Gusto
not
ng
only
mga
the Philippines,
Marcos
but the world.
to the world.
On April 9th,
Ganyan sila kabuti, guys.
1973, Marcos said, "My earthly goods have been placed in the custody and for the disposition of the Marcos Foundation dedicated to the welfare of the
Ito yung
Filipino
huling
people."
gustong mangyari ng ating Pangulong Marcos. Yung last will. Saan kaya nila nakuha to, ano? Hindi ko alam. Legit kaya tong last will and testament. Ito kaya yun. Ito, basahin natin, guys. And the Alpha and Omega account. Katapusan, ibig sabihin ng Alpha umpisa at huli. 999224349 worth of infinity account, guys. Grabe talaga. Meron silang malawak na puso at pag-unawa, yung mga Marcos.
During a talk show in the US TV, the week following the bombing of the New York Twin Towers, President George Bush was asked this question: which is the richest country in the world today? With a smile he said, "The Philippines."
Ang sabi ng isang reporter, which is the richest country in the world today? Ngumiti si Bush, the Philippines. So bakit niya naisip na Philippines kagad, hindi yung kanyang bansa, no? During nung time niya, talagang alam nila ang sekreto, ano?
Is it real? You decide. Leave a comment down below.
So hanggang doon lang, ano? Napakaganda ng topic. Salamat Pewdily sa napakagandang topic. Mag-subscribe kayo sa kanya. So yun nga, no, guys, napakaganda ng topic. So sunod natin, bibigyan natin to ng part 2. Goodbye, peace.